The welding torch slipped from the old man's trembling hands, sending a shower of bright sparks across the steel deck as executives burst into laughter. The young CEO didn't even bother hiding her contempt. She looked at the grease-stained welder repairing a cracked section of her billion-dollar cargo vessel and dismissed him as nothing more than an aging laborer who had no business touching something so valuable. Minutes later, one forgotten blueprint buried deep inside the ship's archives would reveal a truth that would leave every person at the dock speechless. The man everyone mocked wasn't simply repairing the ship. He was the forgotten engineer who had designed it from the very first line. If you believe kindness is never wasted, forgiveness can heal even the deepest wounds, hope changes lives, and everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel to become part of our growing community. Morning sunlight poured across the harbor as towering cranes stretched into the clear blue sky. Workers moved with practiced urgency while the enormous cargo vessel, the Horizon Crown, rested beside the dock awaiting one final inspection before another international voyage. It was the flagship of Hartwell Marine Industries, a company celebrated for building some of the strongest commercial vessels in the world. At only 36, the company's new CEO, Meredith Sloan, had inherited the business after her father's unexpected retirement. Brilliant, ambitious, and determined to prove herself, she believed every decision had to be driven by speed, efficiency, and results. Compassion, she often thought, only slowed successful people down. That same morning, 72-year-old Graham Whitmore arrived wearing faded coveralls that had seen decades of honest work. His pickup truck rattled into the shipyard long before the executives appeared. Although officially hired only as a temporary welding consultant, Graham carried himself with quiet confidence. His hands were scarred by thousands of hours shaping steel, yet his eyes still carried the curiosity of a young engineer. Most workers greeted him warmly because he treated everyone with respect regardless of rank. Very few knew anything about his past. When Graham examined the damaged section beneath the loading deck, he frowned. The crack everyone planned to seal was only a symptom. The real structural stress originated several meters deeper inside the ship's frame. Ignoring it would eventually place enormous strain on the vessel during heavy storms. He politely explained his concerns to the site manager, suggesting additional reinforcement before departure. The manager hesitated but agreed the recommendation should reach Meredith. Instead of appreciating the warning, Meredith interpreted it as unnecessary interference. She walked across the dock surrounded by advisors carrying tablets and financial reports. Without taking more than a quick glance at Graham, she questioned why an elderly welder believed he understood engineering better than her entire technical department. Her words spread across the dock, and uncomfortable silence followed. Some workers lowered their heads while others exchanged nervous glances. Graham simply nodded and returned to studying the damaged steel. Years had taught him that pride often speaks louder than wisdom. Meredith ordered repairs completed exactly according to schedule. Every additional hour the ship remained in port would cost thousands of dollars. Investors were arriving before noon, reporters expected interviews, and delaying the launch would damage the company's reputation. Graham continued working anyway, quietly reinforcing areas nobody had instructed him to touch. He wasn't trying to disobey orders. He simply couldn't ignore what experience told him. As sunlight climbed higher, one young apprentice named Owen became fascinated by the older man's precision. Every weld Graham placed seemed almost artistic, each movement deliberate and measured. Curious, Owen asked why he always measured certain angles twice before beginning. Rather than boasting, Graham smiled gently and explained that steel remembered every mistake forever. Human beings could apologize for careless words, but metal carried every careless cut for decades. Owen never forgot those words. Meanwhile, investors toured the vessel alongside Meredith. She proudly described advanced navigation systems, fuel efficiency, and impressive cargo capacity. Cameras flashed while executives applauded her confident presentation. Everything appeared perfect until one maintenance supervisor interrupted with unexpected concern. Thermal sensors had detected unusual stress patterns near the ship's central support beams. Engineers couldn't explain why. Meredith immediately demanded another inspection. Within an hour, specialists discovered exactly what Graham had warned about that morning. Hidden pressure had begun spreading through internal joints. Left untreated, the damage could eventually threaten the vessel during severe ocean conditions. Embarrassed but unwilling to admit fault, Meredith insisted it was merely coincidence. Graham quietly continued welding. As engineers investigated further, they uncovered something astonishing. The reinforcement pattern Graham had added without authorization matched original structural calculations almost perfectly. Yet those calculations weren't available in modern maintenance manuals. Confused, the chief engineer requested access to archived construction documents stored in company records. Boxes covered in dust were brought from storage. Yellowed blueprints unfolded across a large conference table overlooking the dock. Engineers compared old drawings with Graham's repairs. Then someone noticed a faded signature in the bottom corner of the first page, Chief Structural Designer, Graham Whitmore. Silence settled over the room. Every executive stared toward the dock where the elderly welder calmly removed his protective gloves. Meredith felt the blood drain from her face. The forgotten laborer she had publicly humiliated had not guessed how the ship was built. He had created it. 28 years earlier, Graham had been one of the brightest marine structural engineers in the country. He spent 6 years developing the revolutionary hull design that transformed Hartwell Marine Industries into an international powerhouse. His innovations saved fuel, increased cargo capacity, and improved safety beyond industry standards, but shortly before the Horizon Crown entered production, tragedy struck. Graham's wife became seriously ill. He resigned to care for her full-time, refusing promotions that required constant travel. After her passing several years later, the company had already changed ownership several times. New executives celebrated profits built upon his designs while quietly forgetting the man responsible. Without bitterness, Graham chose simple work repairing ships because he loved steel more than recognition. Meredith couldn't stop staring at the signature. She realized she had spent years praising the company's legacy without ever learning who had created it. Ashamed, she walked back toward the dock. For the first time that day, she truly looked at Graham instead of looking through him. She noticed the worn boots, the weathered hands, and the calm dignity that no expensive suit could ever imitate. She also noticed something else. Not once after being insulted had Graham spoken with anger. He had simply kept protecting the ship. Repairs expanded over the following days, all beneath bright summer skies. Graham guided younger welders through every reinforcement, patiently explaining not only how each joint worked but why every decision mattered. Workers who had barely acknowledged him before now gathered around whenever he spoke. Instead of guarding knowledge, he shared it freely. Meredith spent hours watching. She gradually understood that leadership wasn't measured by authority but by the willingness to help others succeed. One afternoon she visited the company museum, expecting to find Graham's achievements displayed among the firm's greatest milestones. She found almost nothing. Entire generations of executives had accepted awards based upon innovations whose creator had quietly disappeared into history. The discovery hurt more than she expected. Meredith ordered historians to review decades of company archives. They uncovered patent sketches, handwritten engineering notes, and photographs showing Graham leading construction teams with the same gentle expression he still wore today. Every document revealed the same pattern. He always credited others before himself. A week later, Hartwell Marine Industries organized a daytime ceremony on the very dock where Graham had been mocked. Workers, engineers, investors, reporters, and local families gathered beneath clear skies. This time Meredith stood alone before the crowd without prepared speeches written by advisors. She admitted that success had made her arrogant. She confessed she had judged a man by stained clothes instead of extraordinary character. She acknowledged that the company's greatest mistake wasn't forgetting a brilliant engineer. It was forgetting the humanity that built the company in the first place. Then she unveiled a bronze plaque permanently naming Graham Whitmore as the founding designer of the Horizon structural platform, recognizing that millions of lives had safely crossed oceans because of his vision. The applause seemed endless. Many workers wiped tears from their eyes. Graham accepted the honor with quiet humility. Recognition mattered less to him than seeing young engineers inspired to build wisely and treat people kindly. Instead of requesting wealth or prestige, he asked the company to establish scholarships for students whose families couldn't afford engineering school. He explained that talent often lived in ordinary neighborhoods and wore ordinary clothes. waiting only for someone willing to believe in it. Meredith agreed immediately. Within a year, dozens of students began studying through the Graham Whitmore Engineering Scholarship, many becoming the first in their families to attend university. The company culture slowly transformed. Executives spent more time listening to workers. Ideas flowed upward instead of being ignored. Safety improved, employee loyalty strengthened, profits grew naturally, but something even more valuable returned: respect. Graham continued visiting the shipyard several mornings each week, not because he needed the work, but because he loved mentoring young tradespeople. He reminded them that every beam they welded would someday carry someone's hopes, someone's family, someone's future. Building ships, he often said, meant protecting strangers you would never meet. Years later, whenever the Horizon Crown sailed proudly across bright blue seas beneath the warmth of the afternoon sun, crews remembered the humble engineer who had chosen integrity over recognition and service over applause. His greatest achievement had never been designing a billion-dollar ship. It had been proving that true greatness remains steady even when the world forgets your name. Before this story comes to its close, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment and tell us, have you ever met someone whose true value was hidden behind an ordinary appearance, and what lesson did they teach you? If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. As the Horizon Crown disappeared into the shining afternoon horizon, Meredith stood quietly beside Graham, no longer seeing an old welder in worn coveralls. She saw the man whose forgotten dreams had carried countless people safely across the oceans, and she finally understood that the strongest structures in the world are not built from steel alone. They are built from humility, gratitude, compassion, and the courage to recognize greatness before it is too late. And from that day forward, every person who entered the shipyard knew one simple truth: respect costs nothing, but withholding it can make even the richest person unimaginably poor.